It's time for the Everyman Podcast. So sit back, it's time to get your brain relaxed. So tune in almost every week as we share our thoughts that it's okay to speak. It's the Everyman, but it's for everyone. Making mental health priority one. But it's for everyone, making mental health priority one.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Everyman Podcast. Now, tonight we have a very special guest in Luke Ambler. Luke is the founder and CEO of Andy's Man Club. How are you doing tonight, Luke?
Good. I just want to say I've been on a few podcasts, and that is hands down the best intro podcast song I've ever
In the history of podcasts.
In the history of podcasts, and I mean that. And I'm not just bullshitting you. It's really good. That.
Oh, cheers, mate. We I would love to say that we spent months and months and months of time doing it. I actually think it was an afternoon where we had some really shit rap type version on the first one, which is not us as people. And I was like, yeah, we need something better. And our producer, who's actually not on tonight, so he actually is a musician. He played at Leeds Fest and whatever, and he literally knocked it up in an hour and a half.
Yeah,
incredible.
Smashed it.
He has smashed it. Yeah, he's done really well. How are you? How's your day been?
Good. Yeah, every day is an interesting day at the moment. I'm sure we'll get more than that, but overall, I would like to say most days are pretty good. I feel like we have periods in days that can be pretty shit. Too late to ask if we can swear.
Go for it.
but majority of the time, life's a blessing, isn't it? It's a blessing.
Yeah, fully agree. Completely agree with that. The boys, the rest of you, Sean, Callum, Joe, how are you all doing tonight?
Yeah, really good. Really good. The sunshine in the morning's helping a little bit. At the moment, I'm starting to feel like summer's just around the corner with the sort of sunlight on you in the morning. It's making a massive difference in my day. Just getting up and having to walk along the beach and getting a bit of sunlight on my face and finishing work and it being a bit light. I think it adds to your mood, doesn't it?
Oh, massively.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Joe, Callum, how are you both doing?
Good. Yeah, just the usual. Been for my morning run this morning. It was nice, like you just said, to go out and actually be daylight when you go out rather than pitch black. Makes a big difference to how you feel.
I don't know about you, right? But this year, I've really felt, last year was the first winter where the dark nights, early mornings really got to me. I think it's because it's the first year where I properly felt like I lived by myself and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And I just had fuck all motivation to get up and go for a run. None. In the winter, I properly lived my hibernation life, put on over a stone, drinking probably a bit more than I should have as well. And
it's the time when you need to do it most, though, isn't it? When it's dark and when you don't feel like getting out, that's when you actually have to get out and do it, and you do feel the benefits from it. But I've been the same as you, this month, Lou, since getting back from my trip, where I've not run at all.
Yeah.
I think I found it hard coming back from Australia, winter. I came back in November and then it was just pitch black, freezing cold. It's one extreme to the other. Looking awful.
Yeah. So we're all living in Newcastle, Luke. So you being a northern lad as well.
Proper northern accent.
Other than me, I suppose. But yeah, all northerners who we experience the cold and the dark and the minginess the worst. So the southern listeners of us, they don't know. They live in I used to live in Cornwall, and it's like paradise down there compared to here. And winter, I suppose, with the dark nights and the conversation we're probably going to touch on tonight around sort of men's health, it's a really tough time for people, and we're still in that time now. And the lighter mornings, the lighter nights, that does actually give you a bit of hope.
100%.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was waiting for last intro.
I know, I was about to chuck it to Callum there on the running.
Nah, I'm the same. I think like obviously the later mornings and stuff. Like I was training, getting up, freezing cold, scraping the car in the dark. You go to the gym. The gyms are freezing. It's just not motivating at all. But then like I think what was it yesterday? The sun hits your face and you're just like, wow, that seasonal depression's just gone. And then you're thinking, right, the summer's here. 2 months or 3 months, it'll be nice again. Those long days, like I think from a mental health standpoint, like we just don't get enough vitamin D. And I know it's not the only thing we don't get enough of here, but it just makes you feel so much better. And like you said, if you're living by yourself, through the winter, you're not seeing the lads and having that banter as much. It's a lonely place at times, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. I'm on that page, and it's one of those where, like, I think in winter you almost have to force yourself to get out because it's so easy to get in from work, sit on the sofa, order a takeaway or something, and just watch shit TV. So yeah, that's definitely one that I'm very much glad the sun's coming out because I do find that I do run considerably more. Callum, I suppose a quick one on that. How's your running going? So do you want to tell Luke a little bit about your transformation very, very quickly, and now you're trying back to run again?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm a coach, like a personal trainer and stuff like that, but I kind of end up almost being like a strong man. Too heavy. Love my food and stuff. Had a few injuries, and then last year I was like, right, I'm going to get in shape. Dropped 36 kilos, and that was a big one. Got shredded. Did a little photo shoot and stuff, but I just thought now that I'm lighter, like my body can't play football anymore. I used to play a bit of rugby myself, but again, I just couldn't hack that now either. So I thought I'd get into some running. So I've done a few 5Ks and stuff, but I've got a couple of little niggles and injuries. But yeah, it's just different. I love the weight side. I'm sure with the rugby lads, it'll be the same, whereas the cardio, it's a bit like, it's not as fun. But yeah, maybe this year, half marathon or a marathon, we'll see. Depends on to stay injury free.
See, I'm 17.5 stone, but I'm the opposite. I don't like lifting weights. I love running, and I run a lot. Like,
yeah, you do. I've seen
like a lot. Yeah, so I'm probably some smaller weeks at a minute, and it's 50k weeks at a minute. But I love it. Yeah, when you were talking, then don't know if it's from the rugby days. We always did pre-season in November, so getting more. Me and a group of my mates, we run every Tuesday morning. Lotto got track usually Thursday, and then Sunday they used to be a bit more of a run, but it sort of died off. But Tuesday mornings, tempo Tuesdays, non-negotiable with lads. Tough run, lads go out. Hunter's a bit of a pack. It's a naughty run. It's fast paced. It's up a big hill called Ogden Cliff, we call it here in Yorkshire. And then we go sauna and then coffee straight after, and it's just a proper winning morning. And what the boys were saying the other day, on the way back down now from running up this hill, the sun's hitting your face. It is just different. But I don't know if me at rugby, what I've always found is I lose the motivation when everyone wants to have a good body. So summertime, it's sort of like job done for me. I've done it all over winter. So when everyone else is just motivated, I'm winding down.
Yeah.
A little bit opposite.
That's quite interesting, actually. So most of us, Joe doesn't play football, but Sean does, Callum does, or did. And I did.
Yeah.
So like our pre-season is always summer to then be fit enough in the winter. So like in rugby generally, do you have summer off? Is that how it works?
So how it would have worked, back in there, you'd usually have October off. My mum's Irish, so I played for Ireland, so I'd play for Ireland over October. And then November time, we do straight back into pre-season. So your pre-season's from like November to March, February. So you're just slogging it out in dark months, just in training when it's dark, leaving pretty much when it's dark. So by the time summer comes, as you say, like season ends, depending how well you've done, July, August, September, that sort of time, and then you're back in again. So just always dark morning's always been a thing for me. I love that though. I always think that when you're out when no one else is, I'm doing these Ironmans, and it's all dark. It's all dark at the minute. Even my garage. I've got a garage where I train every day. On turbo training, if you know about Ironman training, you do a lot of training on your own. My garage is all dark. I call it the dungeon. And there's something really weird that I do like training alone a lot as well. Like I love, and we'll get into it in a minute, but I actually really love spending time on my own with my own thoughts. And I'm a massive extrovert. I spend time with people all the time. But when it comes to like my own personal mental health, like, as much as I run a charity that promotes It's Okay to Talk, I love spending time on my own to check in. So I'll go sit in a sauna, I'll go sit in garage on bike, and that's where I just like to see what demons or what insecurities are popping up, and just sort of face them head on. I just think we get scared to do that now, not just as men, but as human beings. I think we get scared to sort of spend that time alone with ourselves, undistracted. And I think it does us all worldly good once we get through that uncomfort. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
That's why most people don't like running, isn't it? If you think about it, most people don't like running because it's tough physically, it's tough mentally. When you start running, it's shit, isn't it? Like, no matter how
It's so shit.
Yeah. I've got on Sunday, I've got a 16 miler on my schedule that I've got to do. And already I know it's just going to be grim. If no one else is coming, I'm on my own. It's just grim, innit? You know, you'll hit a certain mark. It's like, this is shit. There'll be a bit of period where if whether it's you, like you say, sun or something, but this is all right. And it's just got to keep doing this for another 2 hours or whatever it is. But by the end of it, when you sat back at home with a coffee in hand, you're like, fucking good, that, wasn't it? You know, that it's actually
it's an amazing feeling, isn't it? You take a massive sense. I think you get the biggest sense of achievement from actually going running. I certainly do. That's like, I'm at my ultimate high from exercise when I've been on a run.
100%. Because you get over all them little hurdles, don't you? Like, it's getting tough. I should stop. Actually, no, I'm going to push on. Actually, no, keep going. And once you do that enough times, it's sort of, in David Goggins' old world, it calluses the mind, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it gives you like mental clarity. Like, I feel like with like strength and weight, it sometimes gives you a bit of confidence. But you know, if something's clogging up your brain and you're maybe going around in circles about potentially something that's worrying you, I think if you go for a run, you tend to come back with some sort of resolution, or you put it on one side and you come and revisit it at a later date. That's what I use running for.
100%. I could be fuming with it's going to stress me out. And then I'm on a run and I'm angry at first, like they're doing made in them lot. By the time I finish, I can't wait to get home and see them, and then I forget that we just had an argument before I left.
The problem is she doesn't.
Yeah, but really, she does, because she just wants to be left alone. So I'm out on this run. It's like brilliant. It just like you say, that clarity is just unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I think
I do
great.
I totally agree with the running side of stuff. I run well every single day, pretty much. But I agree with what you said. A lot of the idea behind running is a lot of mental strength. Like, it's just keep going. If you get to that finish line or get to that end point, you've achieved something. And a lot of it is to do with mental motivation and mental strength. I completely agree.
Yeah. So
you can relate it to like life, can't you? Like, if
totally
going through hard times to achieve something, and there's always like light at the end of the tunnel, and you get that from like a run, don't you? Like, it's difficult when you're doing something, you're out your comfort zone, but at the end you get it's that massive buzz, and I think it's totally relatable to different situations in your life.
Yeah, 100%.
So, Luke, I suppose in terms of that, we've touched a little bit on mental health, and I don't want to jump almost past your story to a degree. So, everyone, or certainly where I came across you from, was Andy Mann's Club, and I suppose to us as sort of a group of lads who are running a podcast, and we have a couple of a few girls involved who help run the podcast as well, and then us mainly as an audience. I know you've seen what I shared, I think it was yesterday, around some of my story and the fact that potentially I'd been through some struggles in the past, and some of the hosts of the podcast had as well. I suppose Andy Mann's Club is now such an iconic organization for me anyway, someone who's really passionate about sort of men's health, mental health. How did it come about? Like, how do you go from probably being a man who was successful with rugby to then starting an organization that is supporting men potentially and definitely wanting to be alive, inspiring us to all want to be alive?
Yeah, there's with any story, it's not always as plain and simple as it appears.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So I'll tell you the quick how Andy's Man Club came about, the emotional side of my brother-in-law Andy. But for me to be in a position to be able to do what I did, there were a lot of stuff that happened to me personally to get to that point, if that makes sense. You know, but in a nutshell, back in 2016, it were April, and they were at our house having a good laugh and joke, talking about buying an house. He got up the next day, went and watched his whole team play football. They were a man down, so they asked him to get his boots on. He ends up playing, has a good game, scored a goal, goes and gets his daughter, goes and gets his sister, who's my partner, and my kids, and they all go to play gym while I'm playing rugby. And then I meet him back at my mother-in-law's house for Sunday dinner, and me and him are just having banter like lads usually do. Next day, gets up, goes to work, don't come home that night. Then Tuesday morning, I'm going to a rugby camp with my little boy Alfie, who were like that at that point, so tight, him and Andy, favourite person. My phone rings, it's my mother-in-law, and I was busy, so I thought I'll ring her back. Then it rang straight away again, and I had that feeling, you might have had it before, that something bad's about to come. And I just said hello, and she was screaming down the phone, our Andrew's dead. And then I just said I'm on my way. I dropped Alfie at the ground, the rugby ground. We were about to go have a rugby camp, and I shot to mother-in-law's house. And I'm from a big Irish family where I lost a lot of people growing up. But walking at mother-in-law's house, it was different to anything I've ever experienced. And I mean, I lost a lot of people. I had mates who died on rugby fields. I've had people at school when they were murdered, like close family members who had lost who were close. But walking at mother-in-law's house, it was like no feeling I'd ever had. And I remember just saying to Elaine, "What's happened?" And she couldn't say it. I said, "Elaine, what's happened? Is it a car crash? He died in his sleep? What's happened?" She said, "Look, he's killed himself." And I'm like, whoa. And it felt like someone fucking smacked me in the stomach. And I thought, if I feel like this, how does she feel as a mum when I tell me about this? So this is bullshit. She shouldn't have to tell someone about this again. And if we're to reround the story, I talked to you about a period in my own life where I had a really dark period. And I had to have a big accountability with myself to ask myself what I were going to do about it. Not what could everyone else do about it, tell me. And it was this little question that came to me called, what's next? Which is how I sort of live my life now. And it's every time something bad happens in my life, anything, what are you going to do about it, Luke? Not what can the government do, not what can your employer do or clients. It's like, what are you going to do first and foremost? So when I looked at Elaine, I thought, what are you going to do about this, Luke? And the first thing I could do was be the bearer of bad news to those people who walked in after me, which was my partner. I have to explain to my partner, a little brother took his life and watch her crumble in front of me, used me as a battering ram. Then it were aunties, uncles, friends, one by one. But the hardest thing I've ever done was when I pulled up at my mum's house, where my little boy Alfie was now, being distracted on swings. And I'll never forget the noise at the gate shutting behind me. And my partner just said, "Look, I'll tell Alfie, I've done enough." We get to Bottom Garden with him. She gets completely overwhelmed. Try to explain it to him because he's panicking now. Panic creates panic. And she said, "Look, just tell him." I said, "Alfie, Uncle Andy's died. He's gone to heaven." The screech in which he let out as a 6-year-old boy will live with me forever. It crippled me because I don't know if any of you are parents, but for those who are parents, you'll know that you have two jobs as a parent: provide and protect. And we don't always get it right. We all got weird and wacky ways of doing that. But all I want to do is protect my family, and I couldn't. And as a man, you'll know that feels like your biggest failure when you can't protect those that you care about. So I was driving down to mother-in-law's house, and I was questioning everything that I were already doing with my own work in mental health, because I never knew about suicide then. No one had never come across my radar suicide. I'd never known anyone who took their life. It was some taboo. I'm from a Catholic background. It was frowned upon to even, someone died by suicide in that community, you wouldn't have known about it. It turned out I actually had a cousin who died of suicide, but it was never talked about. He just weren't allowed. So when I was driving back down mother-in-law, that's all these things I was working on and talking about to people. I called bullshit on it all. And then as I was calling bullshit on it all, I just said, well, that you talk about can't bring Andy back. Be a radiator around people that can't bring Andy back. Be a good energy. All these things were like, can't bring Andy back, can't bring Andy back, can't bring Andy back. And I said, well, what are you going to do about it? And I went home and look, I didn't tell you a long version here, innit? And I went home and
no, it's so interesting.
I found out that the biggest threat to my life as a man under 45 was myself. And as a rugby player who is very fortunate enough to get talks on prescription drugs, road traffic accident, how to drive your car better, down to what other stuff did we get? How to check your knackers. I used to get my heart screened every year because I had ectopic B, so they'd pay for me. But no one ever told me to check myself. And I thought, if I don't get this as a privileged rugby player, Andy definitely didn't get that. And because no one knew, and all everyone kept saying, why did he do it? Why did he do it? I don't know. He didn't talk about it. And then this stat came up that, and you're going back nearly 10 years now, like 42% of guys who consider taking their life, when asked, these 42% of guys said it's because they felt like they couldn't talk about their problems. And I thought, sure, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. And I've been in my own troubles, never that dark, but like,
yeah,
maybe I did old stuff in, but I thought, surely, if I, as a prop forward, and if you know rugby league, prop forward is meant to be a masculine position and a masculine job. If I could sit and talk to people, then maybe they'd feel comfortable enough to do so. So I came up with this idea 4 days after Andy died. I approached my partner about it, and she said, obviously, I said, I can't die in vain. And she just said, it's just a little soon. So we left it 3 months. I approached my mother-in-law at a family wedding. I said, can I have a word with you? I want your blessing. I want to start Andy Roberts Coffee Club. She liked the idea, didn't like the name, because she didn't want it to be just about Andy, because we both realised that there's too many men struggling for it to be about one man. And then we came up with this concept, Andy's Man Club. And I remember sat in a coffee shop and I put this Facebook post out, and anyone I'd spoken to about it said, yeah, great idea, lovely idea, but men don't talk, they're not going to come to that. And at the time, I had a business where I had access to a room it was an old school, it became a charity building, but it also had a sports hall. So my theory was, and I put on this first ever post, you know, guys, come along, we'll play some touch rugby or a bit of basketball, and we'll just sit and have a brew and a chat after. So anyway, we get there first night, didn't think anyone would come, 9 men walk through the door, couldn't believe it. Like, one of the most powerful nights of my life, no structure to it, very different to Andy's Man Club is now. Elaine sat in corner, she's the only woman that's ever been to a group, and it was only one night only. We brought these teas and coffees. Week after, I turned up again, Monday night, and there's significance about that I don't really ever talk about. One is the unsignificant bit was it was all the night I had off as a rugby player. The actual real reason was it was the night that Andy went and took his life. So what we realised is statistically at that point, it might have changed now, that men were more likely, obviously after a weekend, to take their life on a Monday. So I give guys that bit of hope over a weekend. So 15 men came, and then I was sat on toilet, as you do. And I thought, if 15 men can walk through a door in 2 weeks, how many more men want to know about this? How many more men need to know that it's okay to talk? So sat on toilet, I came downstairs, said to my missus, I need to raise awareness about this. So then she, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to take a selfie with an okay sign. I'm going to say it's okay to talk. And she says, that shit, that won't work. She said, everyone's doing like press up challenges and stuff like that, like an ice bucket challenge. Like, who wants to take a selfie? The short version is I took this selfie, I tagged 5 people, a few rugby lads did it. And within 4 weeks, I'd reached 100 million people, trending on Twitter, Instagram. It was going viral in America, Australia, India, England. It just blew up, which then meant that if you tell the world it's okay to talk, you need to give men a platform to do so. So then it were, okay, now we need to make some more groups.
Mate, so firstly, what a powerful story. And the first reaction to that is, obviously, I'm really sorry that Andy felt how he did and that happened. But there's his life, to your point, he can't die in vain. He certainly hasn't. In that sense, I think the awareness and I remember that first initial campaign. Actually, I definitely seen that first selfie, and I've seen it multiple times since, because I think it fairly regularly gets shared across social media. And I've never really spoke about it actually, but seeing your organization when I was at my lowest was fucking huge for me, because I remember having like the fears of like not wanting to be here at all, and genuinely feeling like the only way out was suicide. Like, I can't explain unless any of you have been through it. Maybe you have, and we haven't spoke about it yet. But like, I genuinely didn't want to be here, and I didn't. The biggest thing was I didn't feel like I could speak, and it's not that I didn't have a voice; it's that I didn't think people would listen. Like, that was the thing. There was no place for me to talk and be heard. Never mind just talking. And the fact that you've created something that men are able to go every single week in a hugely amazing safe space where there's been loads of people comment since we posted and message actually saying, I go every week but I never talk. I am actually okay, but I go there to be a set of ears for people. And how powerful is that for men generally to help each other, it's not necessarily always going there to be the one to share your story. It's actually to be there to show your support for the people who need to be heard. So yeah, from me, that's something that I found like hugely inspiring, what you've been able to create. Yeah, just amazing.
Oh, thanks. And thanks for sharing your story as well, because I don't think people understand that the impact of sharing those stories is like a butterfly effect, and that's what I've always based on this man club, the chaos theory. How one small little butterfly wings can have a wide effect elsewhere, and you might sometimes think that sharing a podcast or a story or a post might not have any effect, but you just don't know who's reading and watching in the shadows, and who ain't going to like or comment or share it, but he's going to really take that message home, and it's really important.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other thing with that is when we started this, right, it was we just want to help one person. And we've had hundreds of messages now of you helped me. A lot from parents, actually. It's surprising how many parents want to help their children, and not surprising in a bad way, but surprising that they reach out, because you almost don't expect them to. And that there's times when you think, oh, we're doing all these things, and actually what's the impact on it? And to your point, you will never know really the impact of it. It's just, are you doing something, and what is that? What is the size of that butterfly effect? But all we can do as men, people, humans, whatever, is try and encourage people to realize how you feel is okay, and also talking about it, it's okay. Like, that's a good thing. Talk about it, and then you can deal with it, and you can move on from it, and you can build a sort of a better life from that situation. There's one point on this. So, Sean, you've shared your story on the podcast before. Now, I'm not sure that you ever really delved into sort of suicide and where that took you. But when you think of your low points in your mental health, what were the key things that really helped you through that, do you think?
Definitely talking. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think I think you always wait too long to speak, don't you? And you're in a really, really bad place for a long time. But I think I've gone over it before so for anyone who doesn't know, I had a gambling addiction since I was like 14. And I admitted to myself I had a gambling addiction when I was like 25. But I held it in all them years. And then I think the biggest turning point for me, it goes back to what you're saying about parents that want to help, was actually speaking to my mum, because I was so worried about speaking to my mum and feeling like I'd let her down, when really she wanted to be there to support us. So it's the speaking to my mum, but then also looking at everything in your life and learning about the addiction and the way your brain's functioning, to what's causing you to sort of make the decisions that you are, and then sort of I created like a sort of a mind map of what I was doing every day and how I was feeling after I was doing certain activities, and then changing little things so they were more positive. Like I used exercise as a big thing to replace gambling. And I probably got slightly addicted to exercising, and maybe my relationship was a little bit unhealthy with exercising at the time, because that's all I did and I wasn't really socializing. But at that point, it was replacing the need to gamble, and I feel like that was really important at that time. And then I think when I first came out of the gambling addiction as well, I felt like I would never be able to have a day where I didn't feel like having a bet. But the more you put the hard work in, and the more you compound these habits into healthy habits and talking to people, I think over a period of time, it just sort of, it doesn't disappear, but them cravings get less and less. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things, motivational quotes as well. I've done a lot of reading. Started reading my first books, just trying to grow as much as I could. And I think that helps as well, because it gives you a bit more confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all very similar to the kind of things that I went through to get myself back in sort of a positive position. Luke, in terms of the people who come to your groups, I presume you have people from like real crisis mode, don't want to be here anymore, to people who have probably survived things and are now in a maybe more of a headspace that I'm grateful that I'm in today, of like, I really want to be here and feel really positive. What do you, when you think of Andy Mann's Club and what it does, like, what are the things you're most proud of in terms of what it represents today?
I'm so I played rugby, right? And I've only learned this later. I'm always looking, reflecting. That's why I like to spend time with myself. It's not just dark. It's very rarely dark. I just like to work things out why. And I don't ever really stop and clap about Andy's Man Club, which would surprise people, right? I don't really feel proud about it in any way. And not because I'm overly humble or because of any other thing. There's still a lot of fucking work to do. So much so that every day you could sit and clap because something good's happened. There's 10 bags of shit at your door that you need to sort out, you know, and sometimes it's small stuff, sometimes it's astronomical. People won't even believe running a suicide prevention charity. Well, you might because it's so chaotic, isn't it? You know, like you've just said, you've got depths of despair, and you've got people who are coming who are fragile and then also very negative. So it's not all just sunshine and rainbows running something like this. You know, there's a lot of people who are going to have negative opinions about stuff, even though it helped them. And this is just the clientele at times you're working with. Your organisation is also run by those guys who use your group because our facilitators. So here's what's interesting, which most people don't know. So if you take it on a journey of Andy's Man Club, so a guy walks through the door, is a user. That's his character is a user of that group. If the facilitator team or volunteers feel like he could contribute to that team, he'll be put into facilitator training. He'll then become a facilitator, and he might just be the person, not just, that's wrong, because every role is important. He might be the guy who makes the coffees as you walk in. He might be one of the most important roles in Andy's Man Club, which is the sweeper, which is the one or two guys who stand outside and say, "Are you looking for Andy's Man Club? Come on in." He might be the guy who actually was the main lead, who we have a lead and a co-lead who get the flow of the conversation going, and we pass the ball around, and we've got the famous foam ball, you know, that guys feel nervous about. But then what happens then is as we grow in areas, we need someone to run that area properly now. So we then put a job advert out for an area lead, we call it. That area lead, therefore, is a guy who used your group, facilitate a group, and now works. So again, he couldn't know the organisation anymore because what I mean is he couldn't have more passion than what I'm trying to say is he couldn't have any more passion because he's so passionate because it helped him at his lowest. Then you have a regional lead, which is someone who looks after an whole region, and then you have this is where it gets really interesting. Then you have like a national. You know, there's head of groups in England of Wales, who's also a guy who used the group. Head of Scotland is a guy who also used a group and became facilitator. And then what most people don't know is I'm voluntary CEO of this organisation, which means I do what most things do, apart from there's no one taking off the top, myself included. So I don't get a salary. I don't even claim mileage if I go do out. I'm very fortunate. I have other businesses, and I've been fortunate that I've worked extremely hard to grow other things so that I never have to. But the beauty of it is when you say what you're most proud of, it's probably the fact that I'm in a position to be able to do that because then I make decisions that are based on good intentions, not on profit. So there's never a time in my life where I put anything of my own need above Andy's Man Clubs. There's certain things that we have in Andy's Man Clubs that are against my own beliefs, the way that we do stuff or certain policies, but it's because that's right for Andy's Man Club. So Andy's Man Club is led by myself and a board of trustees. And Andy's mum's one of them, and me and her are so involved together. Both never want to work for it, although we both work for it, if you get what I'm saying. It's our lives, but in a way that it doesn't. That's what I'm most proud of. I could tell you that I'm most proud of, you know, when a guy walks up to me in street, and this happens a lot. I don't want to be able to drop my daughter off at school if I want for this club, and that means a lot to me, especially when it's at my daughter's school. So there were three things that you'd said, it was that fact that I'm in a very privileged position to be able to run an organisation of this magnitude now, and now a different layer of leadership which I'm starting to learn is where it's no longer about me or through me. I lead through others. So I have people that you lead through, and they're, you know, of which are our trustees, as well, are all people who've been to the group, facilitate groups, user groups. So this is what people don't understand. So I love it when someone decides to fucking kick up a stink and they say, "You guys don't get it at office." What? Head office? I'm a guy who walks around in shorts all the time and Crocs. I'm like the most normal person you'll ever meet. Fucking, of course I get it. I've been to a group, I've ranked group, so does Sean as a trustee, and Paul, and Elaine's been to. Trust me, we all get it. So that's the thing I'm most proud of, that we are completely user-led pretty much. The only staff members we've got, I think we've got just under 40 staff now, and 30 of them are guys who've used group, which is just beautiful.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that.
The other one, the thing that the next two the all pinch me moment I've had. So one is the dad, when he came to me in the playground and said that at my daughter's school. But the third one, and it'll shock you, is this, because we could go through some mad stuff that Andy's Man Club's done, that I've been fortunate enough to do, stuff that, like, as a kid from a single parent background, from a rough area in Yorkshire, wouldn't have naturally been given those opportunities to sit in Prince Charles's front room, to go to Buckingham Palace, like all this mad shit, of which I don't give a shit about, right? But what really got me is recently I met with our head of groups for England and Wales. We had a coffee, great bloke Neil, and he told me that we're on track to open 50 new groups in Q1 of this year, right?
Wow.
To use that might not seem a big deal. I'll tell you why it's a big deal. Yeah, I'll tell you why it's a big deal though. The significance of the number. When I first started his Man Club, some knobhead from Guardian or another newspaper rang me and said, "Oh, you've done this fad campaign. Fad campaign, that's what he's called it, right? Is that what's gonna be a flash in the pan?" I says, "No." And I made this statement, right, which looking back now, wasn't even big, but it seemed amazing at the time. I said, "We will open." Because are you going to make it not a fad? And I said, "We'll open 10 clubs in 5 years." He's like, "Wow, are you going?" And I thought that were a big thing to have 10 talking groups in 5 years. I really did. On his 5th birthday, we opened his 50th group. So times 5 has got. So to have that in Q1 now of this year, what took us 5 years to once do, that's why it were a pinch me moment, because they were like, shit, like, look where we're at now. Like, and for every 50 groups, right, if you did it on like numbers, that's 1,000 more men you're helping, because we get an average of 22 men a group cross country. So for every 50 groups like that, that's another 1,000 men. Well, we started off like yourself to help that one man, but as you know, it's never about that one man.
No,
that's the what you go back to as a value. Well, actually, we want to help one person. So if all the one person listens to this podcast, job done. Right? That's how we have the mentality. Because but that's what people don't understand is with a statement like that is that's bare minimum what you're aiming for, not the maximum. So is every man probably wants to help one person. Minimum. On this one interaction, actually, we want to do this every single day of his life. So, and his Man Club, yeah, it's that one man, but we now have 6,000 1 men a week. That'll soon be 10,000 1 men a week. And that's what that one man is. So if we're summarising what I'm most proud of, it's those 3 things.
That is incredible. And 50 groups I think the reason why I'm so impressed with it is because I know how
62 now. It's actually 62 now in Q1. But it was the fact of how he told me that.
Yeah. It's the fact of 50. Yeah. It's more why I'm so impressed is because I know how fucking hard it is for men to want to talk up. Like, that's the big thing. Because men don't want to speak and men don't share their emotions and feelings.
Now they do, though, don't they? When you think about it.
Yeah.
No, but what I mean is, though, you do want to speak, don't you?
Yeah.
The thing that most people don't speak about, actually, is just don't know, do you?
Yeah. And I think sometimes people don't know what the right space is to speak, but when you've created a space specifically to go there and speak about your feelings, it's massive what you've done. Honestly, you should be very proud of yourself.
And I'm just thinking about what some of you guys have said, like, you know, how do you actually, and it's a rhetorical question, how do you go and just say to someone for the first time, "I'm suicidal, I don't want to be here anymore," to your mum who brought you into this world? How do you go tell your mum and dad that you've gambled away all your life savings or 20 grand that they give you towards an house? I don't know everyone's situation, but they might have give you something. They might give you their last penny and you've pissed it up wall. We've drunk that. So people say, "Oh, men don't know how to talk." No, sometimes we're ashamed, aren't we? We're ashamed to have to go and burden someone with that. We're embarrassed, like we feel weak. There's an add-on now that I've learned over nearly a decade of doing this is, so it's okay not to be okay. People say that, but it's not, is it? Because it's not okay to stay there, is it? Right?
Yeah,
it's okay to accept that you're not going to be happy all the time. It's okay to accept that life's not going to be full of joy all the time. But actually, it will be full of a lot more joy if you accept that actually even the shit won't last forever. So happiness doesn't last forever.
Shit doesn't either,
yeah. And same with it's okay to talk. It's okay to talk, get rid of some shit, but then go do something different than you're already doing about your situation you're in. That's my big thing now. It's like you've got to go take action. You've got to do different actions to get a different result.
I couldn't agree with that anymore. That, like, again, we're going to step this back slightly to the wider sort of mental health conversation here, right? So it all starts with you've got to talk. And I remember when I first started my sort of recovery, and it was talking, and that was good to a point. That got me out of crisis mode. It got me these thoughts is like constantly gnawing at my brain. It got it out, dealt with it. Okay, it took me to like a base level, but then those thoughts would have continued to come back unless I made the changes. And the thing that people actually need to realize, and it's that reflection part of going, well, why did I feel like that? Why was that happening? Why was I, whether it was drinking too much, gambling, doing drugs, like whatever people's crux is, and start dealing with those things, because unless you change, nothing actually changes. You'll eventually find yourself back in that situation. And I really had to, and I'm still doing it, right? I'm 32. Am I nearly 2 and a bit years out of feeling like suicidal, all those sorts of things. Life is definitely on the up. And it's only on the up, yes, because I dealt with that. But actually, I had that moment and continue to have them of, where is my life? What is my life? And then what do I want my life to be, and how do I build it? And until you start having those real conversations with yourself and like being honest, I feel like shit, or I'm not where I want to be, or I'm not happy, content, or whatever, because I'm not dealing with my shit and I have to own that. Until I started doing that, I was just going down a continuous loop every year, 6 months, whatever it was, of feeling really low. So I suppose this is a question to all, and anyone feel free to answer it. Why do we think that people aren't having those conversations with themselves? Like, is it because society tells us that we have to live a certain life? Is it because, I don't know, we just don't feel like we were brought up to be really honest with ourselves, and we have to portray a version of ourselves to society to fit in? Yeah, keen to know people's thoughts on that one.
I'll jump in on that one. Like, so I think, probably for all of us, like where we grew up and like the age that we grew up and were kind of born, it was that sort of thing of like, you don't talk about your feelings, the whole man up sort of thing, especially in the sports world. It's like, you got an injury, you'll be Irish, like just keep going, it's fine sort of thing. So I think for us, like I look at some of my clients who have like young kids now, and they're growing up and they talk to their friends about everything. And I just think, God, I would never have done that with my mates. Like, I would have been like looked down upon. There was not like a safe space to bring up those things. And even now it can be those awkward conversations. But I think as well, depending on where you come from, obviously growing up in Newcastle, the big market, nights out in Newcastle, you go out, you drink loads, you feel
I love
rubbish.
how Luke smiled there as if he knows the big market.
he's been in the big market.
Not sure, isn't it?
Yeah, but that was it. You're growing up, you're like 16, 17, 18, you're watching what you think is normal life on TV. You're going out, you're drinking, eating crap, people are taking drugs, all sorts. The next day hits Monday, everyone feels rubbish. You think that's how you should feel. You're not talking to anyone, you're just kind of dealing with how you feel. And I think, it kind of ties in, like, as we get older, we realize actually that's not normal. And like things like self-development, like journaling, meditating, these are things that I do now. And I'm like, wow, even talking to people, you think, God, if I'd done that, 16 years ago, or like 12, even, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, like how much further ahead would I be mentally than, what's taken me so long to realize like this actually makes me feel good. So I think it is like the environment that we grew up in compared to, some of the younger people now is massive. So something like Andy's Man's Club is huge for people, similar ages to ourselves and above that, because there was no outlet for talking about how you feel and, pretty much, just talk about how you feel, really.
Do you know?
I know, and like, go on. No, go on.
I'm just going to say, there is still an element of needing that old generation mindset, because regardless of how I feel, my kids need feeding, and there's an element of what's been missed out in the conversation. So if my kid needs feeding, I still got to go do a job. And I think what happens is because what human beings do is we overconsume everything. Right. So what we do is we overconsume with gambling, with alcohol, with drugs, with eating, with exercise, and now with mental health recovery. Right. So it's like, I'm in a crisis. I need 6 months off work. I don't need to speak to anyone. I need to get away from everything. No, actually, you've got a job to do. Right. Yeah. You've got to provide for your kids. So actually, so when you said about the sport analogy, something came at my head that I never thought about. So when I played rugby, my physio would run and go, "Are you okay to stay on? Like, can you get through it? We need you to step." I'll get through it, right? But behind the scenes, then I would get rehabbed to death, right? So actually, there is an element of the sporting world of where actually, you've got to put a brave face on at times, because I don't think everyone here wants to go to work every single day and tell everyone how bad your life is every day. That's why Andy's Man Club created that. You go somewhere like Andy's Man Club. But what people don't realise about Andy's Man Club is people think Andy's Man Club is a talking group, right? And I love that. I love what people's perception of it is from the outside, right? It's a lot of blokes who sit around and talk, right? It's a very structured session, actually, right? Everyone gets a chance to speak, everyone gets a chance to listen, but it's built on a series of principles that we're never going deep on, but questioned, right? So, and I'll tell you why, and this will relate in your own life and mental health. So if you tell someone it's okay to talk and they come along and talk, they'll tell you the deepest, darkest things, right? Eventually. If they keep telling you that every single week, they're not going to change, right? So what we had to do what we once found is in early days, we used to do name and reason you're here. That's no longer a question on his Malcolm. So it'd be, my name's Luke, I've got anxiety. Then it'd be, my name's Dave, I've got severe anxiety. My name's John, I've got critical anxiety. My name's Sam, and I've got anxiety and depression and suicidal thoughts, and I'm worse than all you. It were a game of top trumps, right? So what we said is, from now on, name a positive reason you're here. All right. So as soon as you walk in, you don't want to go there and talk, right? But ball lands on your hat. My name's Luke. Don't really have a positive for being here, if I'm being honest. Someone would say, you're positive as you walk through that door. Well done. Right. So you get a little clap, ball passes on. Now the next question is going to be, how's your week been? Well, we're all going to answer that, aren't we? No matter if you don't want to speak, you're going to answer how your week been. You're going to give a quick summary of your week. Then when it gets real pivotal here is second question, the proper second question is name one positive from your week. So if where you was at in your life when you know it was shit, you wouldn't have been able to tell yourself a positive. But when you have to now sit in front of a group of people and reflect on that, you would have found one positive in your life. But now that one positive is your anchor, is your hope, your sticking point for the rest of your week, because actually you've got something to get up for. Because your mum did help you when you talk about your gambling problem. You know, you did have a friend that you could speak to, or you did have a boss who were actually quite caring, even if they told you to man up now and again. But they actually did give a shit about you because they give you a little, rub on the head and say, come on, lad, I've got your job, bro. Right? You actually find more. When you look for it, you find more. Then the third question is to get off your chest. This is the point where everyone will talk about the deepest, darkest secrets. But now we need to make them feel positive. So you've got a question 4 and a question 5, which could be, and I ain't got that phone with me, but that could be, tell us a goal you've got between now and next week and why. And why means and emotion, right? So now yeah. My goal is that I will take my daughter this week to football because I never take her, and I want to be proud of her, be proud of me as I am as an example there. So now again, you've set yourself something future based. Anyone who's suicidal will know you don't set yourself something future based because you don't believe you're going to be here. And the fifth question usually is something fun. Tell us a superhero who you'd like to be. Tell us a magic power you'd like to have. Tell us your favourite sandwich. Tell us. Sometimes they're weird and wacky that people come with. I don't know. I'm making up. What colour would you be in a rainbow? I don't know. They come up with the maddest stuff, right? Some of the questions that come out now, right? But it makes everyone have their own little analogy and then laugh as they're leaving. What is someone who's struggling, not doing very often, laughing? So what do they want to do now? Come next week. So now what they've got until next week is a thing called hope. And suicide, the reason why people take their life is because they lose hope. They can't stop gambling, they can't stop drinking, they can't stop doing drugs, their relationship's never going to get better, they're not going to see the kids again. Ultimately, when you give people something to look forward to, it makes them stay around a little bit, doesn't it? So if we're taking Andy's man away from it, taking suicide away from it, and talking about general mental health, you could say to yourself, first thing you got to do when you wake up in the morning is find something positive for. Just one thing. Even if your partner's doing your head in, your kids doing it, but one thing, one single act of grace or beauty that you saw the day before or you're looking forward to today. Give yourself something in life to look forward to. You've got to give yourself something to look forward to and give yourself something to laugh about. Right. And if you just do the first 3 things in the morning, even something so simple, and I believe in journaling, I believe in meditation, but some people it's a turn off for them. So take it real simple. Go and shower, do it while you're in a shit. What am I grateful for today? What made me laugh recently? Oh, yeah, what about when Brett did that in nutcase? Oh, what that made me laugh. All right, now suddenly we've got something to look forward to. What are you looking forward to? I'm looking forward to going on my run in the morning. I'm actually not, but I will be. I'll be enjoying the feeling of when I've done my 14K tomorrow, right? Future based, and that's what I think. Then everything else will take care of itself because you'll feel more motivated then to go exercise, to drink more water. As a result of doing that, you'll sleep better at night. Because the one thing that most people struggle with or struggle with mental health is sleep. It's the biggest one. What's the hormone to help us sleep? Oxytocin. How do you get oxytocin? Spending time with people you care about. What do we do when we struggle with mental health? Push away everyone that we care about and spend time on his own. And then we can't sleep, and then we're ruminating his thoughts, and then we stop eating very well. We start drinking more caffeine, and we drink more alcohol, and before you know it, you're in self-destructive cycle, aren't you? And suddenly it's the world's fault and no longer yours.
I'm just absorbing that. That was fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Good.
Went off on one.
It's almost like you should do this not for a living. Obviously, because you clarified that you don't do it for a living, but incredible, mate. Like genuinely, that was so interesting. And there was something you touched upon there around, like, we need some of the older generation's mentality, and that's something I'm like. I've read so much pro and cons about it. Like today's society, we talk about mental health way more. That's good. We're reducing stigma. Today's society, we're talking about it far too much. We're giving people reasons to maybe not be as mentally strong because it's a cop out. Like you say, I want 6 months off work. It's like life is tough. Life's always going to be tough. We're always going to have hard things. We're always going to have challenges. We just need to get better at dealing with them. And if you have that mindset that you're always going to have hard things, just get fucking good at dealing with the hard things. There's almost that approach, right? What's your views on what society needs to do? This is a much bigger question, but in terms of what does society need to do to fix this fact that if you're 45 or under and a man, you're most likely to die from suicide? Like, is it more of the education type stuff, or is it getting that balance of actually you need to be really tough with yourself again and be strong and get through it as well?
This is a multifaceted question, so we'll break it in multiple ways. First one is well, and I always love when people say society, right? I love that. Okay. What should we're all society here. There is no society. It's bullshit. Yeah. It's just a really easy way to cop out and have no accountability on your own mental health. Society need to make it better for men to talk about how they feel. What? Who's society? Who is it? Is it government? Is it God? Who is society? So actually, your society, if you think about what a society is your society is your four mates here. So if your four mates know what works for you, then what works for you, isn't it? I'm someone who told, well, it's okay to talk, but I have a group of mates where I'm the person where I'm actually going to give them a bit of banter about stuff, right? But not in a ruthless way. I'm going to make them laugh. I'm going to say something that they're like, that's absurd. Like, you can't say that, but like, they laugh their head off. You shouldn't laugh in your head off. You just broke up with your missus. Yeah, but you just said, what about when someone else is banging her and now I can't get me out? Well, made you laugh, didn't it? And then they text me at night going, no one else has said that to me. No one else said that. That's made me laugh. Or, my own mum, when she's had cancer scares, and I've said stuff to her that's really inappropriate. And she like laughs and she goes, you can't say that. So it made you laugh. And then she's like, it did, yeah. And she'll text me that night saying that journey home were amazing. I laughed all the way home. And I think everyone needs different things. And so my message to me, my dad came to me at night and said, fucking man, will get on with it. Right? I wouldn't take that personally. I honestly wouldn't take that personally. I wouldn't be like, we talking, Dad, that's offensive. You shouldn't say that. I'd be like, probably identified something where I need to go work on something, right? Because man up, right? This is the thing, right? People get offended by language and I don't understand it, right? Language, it's words. And Ricky Gervais says this beautiful. If you like him,
I love it.
He says, joke's a joke. And me and my kids, I have jokes with my kids and they'll be like, you can't say that, right? And it could be about, and it won't be racist or homophobic, it won't be all that. Just be something that's funny to them about a situation they're going through. And they'll laugh. I'm like, it's a joke. Like, the more you can understand that words are just words, there's no power, there's no weight to them then. So if a kid calls you something at school, as someone who got really bullied at school, and put pressure on what people said, there is no value to what they say because they're just words, right? So if I turn around and say to you, man up, and you take that really offensive, you're going to be now more offended that I told you to man up than you are about the situation you've got yourself in. Or the fact that your mum's passed away, or the fact that your partner's left you, or that you haven't come out as being gay, but you really want to, or the fact that you're struggling with your sexuality or your gender or whatever. Like, it's now easier to pick an argument with me or the underspend of government funding on mental health services than it is actually about the root cause of the problem. So that what we need to do is turn it more internal than external, in my opinion. Because I've sat on government boards at the highest level. I sat until the recent government advising our current health minister on men's health for our country. And I spoke to them, I'll speak to you. I'd say, that's a lot of shit what you're on about, innit? And I'd just speak like that. And they respected it after a little bit. Like they started quoting what I was saying. Because I realised that, like, again, words are words and language is language, innit? Right? And ultimately, even sat at a table like that, where they didn't exactly have all answers that you think they would, and there were doctors from Oxford and Cambridge and the leading thought leaders of this country. And it just made me think that, like, actually, it's everyone individuals. So when you say to me society, the first thing that I really think about, which is so controversial to most people, is parenting. Yeah. Parenting is the number one thing that's lacking in this country at the minute. There's not enough strong male role models anymore. because as a kid, and I'm not going Andrew Tate on you here, so don't worry. But as a kid now, we've got a lot of broken homes where a lot of guys don't get access to the kids, or maybe, you know, let's not just put it all on the mom. Some guys just fucking do one and leave a kid get brought out. There's nothing wrong with a single mom household by any stretch. Moms are doing the phenomenal. But then the kids are also going to a school where there's no male primary school teachers now, right? So the only way they're going to get a positive male role model is to go to a boxing club, a football club, a rugby club, where they're going to be old school. They're going to tell them stuff that they're going to be really offended about to start because they've been really mothered and wrapped in cotton wool, and it's been really nice, and that, you know, you're really special. You know, you're the best at what you do, and then you go football and you shit. Like, and I love my kids being shit at stuff, and I don't big them up for the sake of it, just so that they stroke their ego. I want them to know that sometimes you're not going to be the best at something, and that's life. You're going to go for a job interview one day, and someone's going to say no, and you can't crumble because they said no because you weren't good enough. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
And I think if we had this mentality a little bit more, like about ownership, my kids are my responsibility. They're not the school's responsibility. And if my kids go to school and swear or they mess up, that's not school's problem to deal with. That's not my problem to deal with. But we have a blame culture, don't we? If my kids is something not right in their life, that's my fault, right? And that's my responsibility. It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility, innit? My kids are struggling with something. So now if we take this to wider society, I'm not saying that when you struggle, that was your parents' fault, because you're at an age yourself where now, you know, an adult, are you? It's your responsibility. But you said something beautifully, right? I spoke about it. So you did what most men need to do. You accepted there were a problem in some way. But what we do is we have like a delayed acceptance. So it takes you 2 years to accept it.
Yeah.
I've got a problem.
Yeah, I felt that.
Yeah. 2 years. It's okay what I'm doing because all my mates are having a bet. It's okay because all the lads are on sniff at weekends. It's okay because all the lads are jabbing up on gear or whatever it is. Once you become everyone's doing it, it's normal. But then what happens is you go, actually, this isn't right. I'm not right here. So you accept you got a problem. Then the hardest bit is after the acceptance is getting some form of help, whether that's going to talk to a parent or whether it's going to talk to someone else, just to actually try and articulate. So acceptance and articulate in some form, write it down, put a Facebook post out, a LinkedIn post, whatever, but you articulate out to the world. And then you're going to get feedback, right? And you're not going to like all that feedback because some people are going to tell you, come on, sort yourself out, you shouldn't be doing this to your family. Look at what you've got to live for. In that moment, you don't give a fuck what you got to live for. You don't want to live, right? But you got to accept. You've got to then express yourself. You've got to acknowledge it, and then you've got to take a different action, haven't you, as we've already got to, right? But within all that, you have to take accountability. You have to take accountability, both of you, and all four of you. At some point, myself, when I hit my lowest point, I had to take accountability. So society is accountability. In a very short version of that long story is how does society change? Is everyone's got to take accountability. You said it yourself when you realised that you'd got overweight. It wasn't everyone else who had to lose weight for you. It wasn't everyone else's fault. It wasn't society's fault because it's fast food problem everywhere. You stopped buying that shit. And you started taking a different action, which then made you accountable to yourself. And suddenly you lost 36 kg and now you love doing 5k runs. 5 kg runs to you 2 years ago would be worst nightmare, wouldn't it? That would have made you depressed. The idea of going a 5k run. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there's some real harsh things that aren't common to really spoke about in mental health because we want to say, let's create nice safe spaces and let's have nice mood boards at work and let's do all this. But reality is life's fucking horrible at times. You're gonna find out that the nearest and dearest has died on a hour's notice, and it's going to no mood board or good policy at work is going to prepare you for that. You know, that's why we've got to go and do them grim runs. I do them grim runs, so when I find out something bad about one of my kids, I'm already prepared. Fucking my mind already knows. You've been through some hard shit, Luke. This is just another tally on the headboard. Do you know what I mean?
It always passes as well. I think one thing that I've been striding for, like all the way through my life, is I've been striding for perfection. And the moment that I found out that perfection isn't even a thing, it made my life so much better, just so much easier. Like I knew feelings just pass, whatever they are, the good, the bad. There's always something better or something that you maybe have to deal with around the corner, and that's just life. And then as soon as I stopped searching for that perfect destination, I felt a lot more at ease and a lot more weight was off my shoulders just to sort of relax a bit and like, this is life, you know? You just got to try and make the best of it out you can.
Do you not think, though, and this is probably a question for you, right? And this is something I'm seeing more and more. 0 to 10, you're just living out, you're having a laugh. I know some kids have problems. I work in schools, that's what I do. You know, some kids have problems. Again, I won't go controversial on that. 10 to 20-year-old, hormones are everywhere. You're experimenting in all sorts of stuff as you get along that 10 to 20 ladder. You can lose yourself. You don't have 20s to 30s are quite fun. 30-year-old, everyone, it's a bit of a crisis because they no longer feel fulfilled from going out and getting drunk. They no longer feel fulfilled from anything that they once thought fulfilled them. And now you find yourself in the next thing, which is you get addicted to ice baths, yoga, meditation.
Yeah, why are you describing my life?
But that's common, and there's no wrong with that. So you actually could say, those 20 to 30s taught you some of the best lessons of your life because now you probably understand financial management, you understand mood, emotion regulation. Like, why would you? You know, the only thing you could say is that by doing things like this, you just shorten the fuck up process for a lot of people. That's all you try to do. So when I go and do a talk to teenagers, all I'm trying to do is make them maybe not make it for as long as I did, or for as long as you guys did. It's like, okay. You've got a you might have a gambling problem, you might have an addiction problem. You might not be gambling, you know, it might be addicted to your phone. But actually, if you could not take that out to your 30 and then find hugging trees, and you could take that and maybe hug trees now and again at 20, and maybe still do whatever you're doing, but you know, dip in and out, people might be a bit more fulfilled. But it's just the ebb and flow life. Then we're all going to get to 40 and probably be fed up of self-development anyway, and just want to do something different. Maybe we want to go hiking now.
They're describing Sean's life now, I think. Yeah. Do you know within that, right? Everything you just said there, for me, I look at it and go, so I sit here today really grateful for my shit low part because I fucking love my life now. Like, I actually, it's not perfect by any means, but I'm really happy, especially from where I was. And like, do you think that most people have to have a low to that? It's almost like you don't know what you've got till you've lost it, sort of thing. I don't know if there's some sort of weird reverse of that. Like, you almost have to lose something and have a bad moment in your life to then go, shit, this is now what I need to make my life positive.
How can you know what peace is without chaos? How can you know what love is without hate or without heartbreak? How can you know what joy is without despair? Like, you can't know it. Like, you can't, and it's going to ebb and flow. Like we all ebb and flow, and I always think it's interesting. You know, if I said to you, "How's your week been?" I'll tell you a story just to emphasise what you've just said there. I once said school run, and I saw one at mum. Said, how are you doing? All right? Yeah, shit week. It was like a Thursday or something, right? And I'm like, shit week. What's happened? You all right? Yeah, you know, just work, and that's all. Well, Monday was shit then. No, Monday were a good day, right? I said, oh, that's good. Well, Tuesday. No, yeah, you know, it was mad how it happened, right? Like, Tuesday, Wednesday I had a bit of fallout with my boss. What all day you fell out, argued with Wednesday morning when I first went out. What about afternoon? Well, me and girls went out for lunch, so that was shit. No, really nice to spend time with girls. It's what did you do? Well, I picked kids up to go. Went, fucking a great weekend, yeah. One bad morning. an hour you and your boss argued. People die for a week. People die for a week like that, where you've had a great week, other than an hour where you've had a bit of an argument with your boss, and like as if arguments aren't a good thing. Like, you only argue with people that you care about, or that you're both heated over, or you're both passionate about something. You know, when you don't give a shit, you don't argue, do you? Like, oh, got work, okay, I'm not bothered. Like,
Luke, I have to be honest, mate. You simplify things in such a way that make me feel like I've been overcomplicating so much more in my life. Like, I'm definitely not someone to think I ever have a shit week. I say I have a shit moment, not a shit week. But like, the way you describe things, it's so fucking logical. Where I'm listening, like, I can't help but laugh because you see these people in life all of the time, and they're always moaning that, like, life's really shit, life's really hard, I'm struggling. And yes, life is really shit and they might be struggling. But actually, how much of that is them just projecting a bad moment and letting that spill over because they can't just mentally shut off and go, right, just move on, crack on.
Well, I'll add another one in just for a bit of fun. I sat in a sauna, 2 old birds in there, and they're moaning about everything in life. They're moaning about gas bills, electric, which fair enough. We all get ripped off on gas, electric. I would have sat there, not even in the conversation, out of the way, just like, bit of fair play. And I thought, it must be hard though, just to constantly feel like you got to moan about something, right? This is very different to talk about him when I was just moaning in it. And then one of them said, oh, Martin Lewis, scam artist, right? And I'm like, Martin Lewis, money saving expert. Well, I'm just listening. like, yeah, he's got something going on now. And I just thought, I'm very logical, and the reason why his man club works is, and if you ever go asking on his Luke simplifies everything. When there's chaos, Luke loves chaos, because if I believed in diagnosis, I've clearly got ADHD, right? And people with ADHD love chaos, right? So I'm in there. I thought, I'm having this out here. I said, what's your problem, Martin Lewis? Well, no one would do it for good at so I said, well, I know. So what I did, I said, I know loads of people do stuff without like who. I said, Kevin Sinfield, an old mate of mine's currently running a load of marathons for his mate Rob Burrows. Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, he's a rugby player, isn't he? Rugby players, footballers don't do that, though. You'd never see a footballer doing that. I said, well, let's get back to Martin Lewis. Right? What's he done so wrong? And she couldn't come up with an answer. I said, because I think he actually goes out of his way to give people good advice. She don't want him getting ripped off. Then, the other lady who'd been agreeing with her all the way through said, you're right. I actually took some advice and said 400 quid one year. I said, why didn't you tell her that then? Because he was feeding the shit. Like, you just fed a lot of shit. You made everyone in here feel shit, although it's only us three in here. Like, you know how I feel about Martin Lewis. Now piss off home, go on money saving expert, go save yourself some money. I'm moaning about everything.
And Martin Lewis, if you want to sponsor the podcast after Luke just teeing you up there, feel free to reach out.
It's just, that's what society's thing is. We live, and there's a great video about poppy syndrome, especially in the UK, where everyone does well in the UK. You want to knock them down, like, as a PT, you start doing well, you get shredded. Oh, I must be on gear. That's just what grounds do you think he's on? And so what if he is? So what if he's doing? That's his choice. But why do you feel that you now have to have an opinion to make yourself feel better because the situation you're in, and you've got to bring him down or her down? If them look like they're in a good relationship on Instagram, let them have a good relationship. You don't have to say, well, I bet they argue about it. Fine, of course they do. Everyone does. Someone's business is doing well. Yeah, but if mum and dad give them an handout. So what if they did? Like, clap for people more. And you'll feel better for doing that. Yeah.
British people just love to moan, don't they? That's the problem. And you go somewhere like America, Dubai, and people are like bigging you up. They want you to be successful. And you go back to the UK, and it's just like you said, tall poppy syndrome. Everyone wants to cut you down. Or if they're not happy with their own lives, they'll kind of say, "Oh, they've cheated their way to get success, or to get in the place that they're in." It's never like, "Oh, well done."
You imagine Donald Trump bagging you? You've got such a good brain. You're a good guy. What a guy. What a guy. Greatest guy ever. Like,
I always quote this kid once.
You've definitely practiced that in the mirror.
I have. And these hand gestures. But let's not talk about it. I might cause some controversy.
Yeah, I think so. No, that's super interesting. That's really made me laugh, actually. So, Luke, you were touching upon there that you do work in schools, which is incredible, and I think actually that's a big part of sort of the mental health area that I don't think there's enough of, and we spoke about it previously. Like growing up in school, I don't remember anyone talking about mental health. Like it just wasn't a thing. And Joe works for Newcastle United Foundation, going into schools, talking to schools about mental health. Joe, like what are the main things that you see in kids today around mental health? It'll be interesting to see and hear Luke's opinion on that too.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff that I do in schools, like mainly a lot of it is just encouraging conversation, encouraging kids to talk, like, and open up about stuff. So it's not so much of a taboo subject for them, really. What I think I would find in schools really is that massive lack of resilience. Like kids don't know how to deal with stuff, don't know how to handle situations, challenges, and I think that a lot of that comes down to what we've touched on already, like wrapping kids up in cotton wool and trying to take away the problems that they might have, but in fact they need to go through all that shit because that's how you become more resilient and become better at handling stuff that might come up in the future. So yeah, that's kind of what I do in schools anyway. Yeah.
And what are the main sort of challenges to schools generally talking about the mental health? Like, are schools receptive to it? Are kids receptive to it? Or has there been a bit of a change?
No, I think schools are massively receptive to it. I think schools love the fact that we're getting kids to open up, and I think that they're really keen for more of that. Challenging wise, definitely boys struggle still massively to talk openly about stuff. And what I find that I try and do is talk about my experiences, which then shows them that it's all right. Like, you can have really shit times, but look what you can get to. Yeah, but it's definitely still harder for boys, I think.
Yeah. So Luke, in terms of the work you do with schools, is that mainly around like planting the seed around mental health? Is it encouraging conversations at a young age? Is it like what does that look like?
So I run a company called Ambler Training Group, and we deliver programs as main programs for MOD, a big national program on 16 army bases. We also
that's so interesting. My dad's in the military, so that's really interesting.
We also run programs in schools, but under our BU schools banner, using our BU kids journals, which are used by camps. I brought a journal out, which is a workbook for kids. We've also got an adult version, but workbook for kids to express themselves. But where I see one of the biggest problems in schools is, and across society, and this is really sad, I think, because we joked then about people pulling other people down. There's a reason why you pull someone else down, because you've got low self-confidence yourself and low self-belief. Because you pull others down, it makes you feel a little bit bigger, right? And ultimately, it's really sad. And one of the biggest things that we're trying to really push for our programs in schools is self-confidence and self-belief workshops. And we do stuff that's really unconventional. You know, make kids stand straight up, middle of everyone, and say something that not about mental health. Because mental health doesn't have to be, oh, I really struggle with low mood. I really struggle with stress and anxiety. No, like, actually, let's not. So if I go see a PT, right, they don't sit and go, oh, bit overweight, mate, blood pressure's high. It's like, how can we get you stronger, fitter, faster, more flexible? Right. So when I talk about mental health in schools, how can we get you more self-confident, have more self-belief, be more calm at exam time, and more patience in general in life? As a basic example, there's many more than that. So actually, let's not speak about mental health on the negative, because if we focus on the positive sides of mental health and building good mental fitness, the other stuff hopefully will take care of itself. So what we're trying to do is build programs, not just we don't just deliver for Amblers in schools. It's also the biggest client until recently with the prison service, 58 prisons in 4 years. Again, self-confidence, self-belief. You know, that's why you get brought into crimes and gangs, because you feel accepted, because you're not comfortable in your own skin. And ultimately, that's what it's all about, self-confidence. And I wish, you know, if I had a wish now, I wouldn't wish for anything for myself. It just be that the world could be a little bit more self-confident in themselves. And that don't mean everyone becomes arrogant. It just means that people are a little bit more of a spring in the step and feel a little bit better about themselves and feel a bit more about abilities. And actually, if I say something, you know, I don't care if anyone takes it the wrong way. And that don't mean you go around starting to abuse people. It means if I'm going to tell people, actually, you know what, I'm really struggling with mental health right now, whether they understand it or not, it doesn't have to be my reflection of me, does it? Or, you know, it's, you know, and a big thing, one of the biggest fears that, you know, that I see from a lot of it is like judgment of others. It's just so sad. It's like, who gives a fuck what people think? Like, it don't matter, does it? Like, it don't, does it? It just don't matter. Like, it don't mean it gives you a right then to be a dick either, right? You know, you ultimately should want to be a good human being first and foremost. That's what you should want to be. And I always think that if your intentions are right, everything else will fall into place. So, and when you do that, building that self-confidence, building that self-belief in yourself, building that self-assurance, you know, just takes care of everything else. And that's what ultimately at schools we're really trying to do.
Yeah, there was probably two parts within that which really stood out. There was the mental health part and framing it in a positive way. And we had a guest on called Tim Harkness, who at the time was head of sports science and psychology at Chelsea Football Club, and he described it very much. It's not mental health, physical health; it's health, and then it's not health; it's strength. So when you start framing it as something you can build and improve over time, you actually feel more empowered to improve how you feel. And so that angle was something that I think we probably need to start. Even us as a podcast, start positioning how we talk about these conversations, because actually it's not just about what you were saying before, coming in and talking about how shit you feel. It's actually talking about how you inspire people to make positive change. So yeah, I'm as much reflecting as you're talking there on, as a podcast, how can we best inspire people to change how their sort of current mental state, physical state today, to be the better version of themselves. Because I've definitely listened to you there and thought, fuck, there's so much, even just that element of positioning, because we're trying to do things, but how do you frame it in a way?
If you go buy some books on and you've probably already think on NLP, right, which is neuro-linguistic programming. It's been used in sales over years, which is not my bag for it, but actually it makes complete sense. So when you said something earlier, most people might take offense to that, you simplify stuff really well. I love simplifying really complex.
I
love it because language is everything, right? It is. This is where I said earlier about there's no weight to it. There's a lot of weight and motivation to different people through language. Neuro-linguistic programming, neuro being mind, linguistic the language you use, programming, right? And you talked about framing, then that's a philosophy within NLP. There's another thing, like when you have an argument with someone, if I'm having an argument with you, I've got my point of view, you've got yours, and I'm blinded by what your side could be because I'm so fixated, and this is what happens with everyone in it. Actually, there's a third point of view, which is the one above, which sees everyone's point of view. And you can train yourself to do this. I could be arguing with Mrs. and go, no, I'm right. Actually, what's she really trying to say here? Then take myself above and go, we've both probably been a bit idiotic here. Like, we're arguing with something, no, like, it really is something, no, just go sort it, or, whatever. And I think NLP is a great tool for most people as a starting point or a finishing point to really develop how they use the language themselves, because you can train it. Just like the what's next were NLP, wasn't it? I've been living in a world where, well, why me? Why is it happening to me? Mum's had a car crash, I've done brain damage, my rugby career's in tatters, I've been locked up here, I'm sat in a police cell, my life's in tatters, I've caused some havoc, all my life's in chaos. Why me? No, actually, what are you going to do about it? It's NLP, it's like reframing it. But like going for a gym session, I don't just go to a gym tomorrow. So this year I'm doing all 5 UK Ironman events, right? I can't just turn up at start line and get them done. Mentally I could try, but it's a series of what I do every single day. So today, 6 a.m. I were in pool. 4 weeks ago, I was sinking when I was getting in water. Today I'm swimming unbelievably well, right? And I'm only going to get better. Just before I came on this podcast, before I took my daughter to football, I spent an hour and 15 minutes on the bike in the garage, and that's every day. There's something that I've got to do, and it's called stacking, innit? So I'm stacking days. Every day I'm stacking days. So when that day comes and I do that event and I swim, my bike, I run, go to the finish line, the Instagram pictures, me on red carpet, Luke Ambler, you're an Ironman again. Right, great. What people don't see, which it doesn't matter to them, is the 100 or 400 days of stacking that took me to get there. And that's the same with his mind. Right. So when you're saying, how do we now change this as a podcast? Start with the end in sight. How do we want to reframe stuff? Do we want to be the type of place that promotes positive mental health? And instead of talking about stress, we talk about peace. Instead of talking about anxiety, we talk about leaning into your fears. Like, instead of talking about depression, we talk about joy. Like, and actually, once you do that, you can track that back then, and each day call each other out on it as well. Challenge each other, call each other out. No, we don't talk that anymore, do we? What we talk about now is this. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
I love how Luke's become our podcast mentor here, and I mean that with like full respect. Like I actually work in marketing, and it's really interesting how I do this as a job, right? But when it's your own thing, and because how do I describe it? I'm probably leaning into, or I've probably lent into the podcast in a way of like, I need to share my thoughts, my fears, guest thoughts, fears, challenges as a way to try and almost remove the stigma part. And it's probably I was listening to how you started Andy Man's Club and what your initial sessions were like. So it was start with some of the negative element, but you were finding actually that wasn't the best way to inspire change. And listening to this, my mentality has probably been coming at this from the angle of share, talk about it more, but actually how much does that make people want to do anything different? So yeah, to be honest, that was probably a very irrelevant conversation in terms of some of the Andy Man Club stuff, but really positive in terms of how you solve the challenge of getting people to change their way of thought.
That's the same with Andy's Man Club, isn't it? Because we're given 5 questions. It's not just how's your week been, tell us about it. Because after the first 3 weeks, it got really boring for everyone. Because we did everyone's story 3 weeks on bounce, 4 weeks on bounce. Right, let's put some structure in, let's put some positive questions in. Actually, let's use NLP. and like let's add that in as a structure. So suddenly everyone's leaving with 4 positives and just one to give. So actually, they're talking about it in the main bit, is it? It's the 4 seeds that are planted each and every week. But the guys who've got a group don't know that. They think it's just talking group for men. That's what makes it so beautiful.
Yeah,
because they don't need to. They don't need to understand the framework because it's not it works.
Yeah, that's so true. I think Callum, for me, is someone who can bring a lot of that. If you think, Callum, a lot of your work is around that positive angle, right? So when you hear the framing aspect and stuff, is that something you really resonate with?
Yeah, 100%. I think one of the biggest things for me, and especially in the weekly check-ins, I know the questions that you spoke about with Andy's Man Club, pretty much is very similar to what I ask, in my check-ins. Like, one of the biggest things I always ask is, what's your wins for the week? Because I say this in my onboarding video and I send them out. I'm like, look, I don't care if you've had the worst week of your life, there'll be one win in there. And if we can change your mindset to find just one win, you're gonna, like you said, reframe that mind to be like, actually, it wasn't a bad week. It was maybe a very bad week with, some good moments still, or like you said, a good week with one bad moment. And I think, again, for myself, from a journaling aspect, is the other things like looking at every single day, like what has gone well. What's the one thing that I'm looking forward to the most? Obviously, I work with Paul Mort, who we're going to get on the podcast. So it's his journal that I fill in. And, the questions are brilliant because, like you said, very similar to the questions you mentioned, Luke. It's just one of those things where it's like you're always kind of looking forward to the day or the week or what's the big things you've got to, get done. And it's kind of like giving yourself that accountability. And when you start doing the things that you said, stacking things up, I think one of the big things for me, and one of the words I love, is resilience. Like, once you start, building resilience, you look back at things that would once bother you and be like, you know what, I can deal with this. Like, I've just run an Ironman. I will never do one of them. But, for yourself, it's like this little issue that for some people would absolutely crumble their day is nothing in the grand scheme of things. So it changes that mindset in terms of that. So I think like resilience is a huge one, kind of looking at yourself and asking those questions. So again, another question I always ask my clients in their onboarding is, what hasn't gone well and what can you do about that to make sure next week goes better? So yes, I will give them the answers as well, but guess what? I want them to learn how to do it themselves, because you shouldn't be paying someone for the rest of your life to, teach you how to do something. So it shows me that they're actually actively learning, and, it's almost a bit like self-help, like they're kind of problem solving and being like, all right, actually, I know my food's been terrible this week, or I haven't done my workouts, so I know what I need to do. And then obviously if there is something that I need to step in and help them with, I can do that as well. But I think the issue is, it's like, if people aren't putting in the effort, they're not going to see the results from a training standpoint of health and fitness. And like you said, they can, piss and moan all week. Like you said, if you're going every week and you're like, oh, I've got the same problem, I'm talking about it, it's like, yeah, but you've took no action. Like, you've got to be prepared to take that action, take that first step, get the ball rolling, and you'll build momentum and you'll build resilience from that. But I think I said, like, for most people, it's having that first step, which is the hardest part. But once you take it, you realize actually it wasn't so bad. And then it gets easier and easier, as like they said, with the stacking side of things. You go for your first run, you're knackered. And then after a month, you're like, actually, running's not too bad. Same with the gym, same with health eating. It's that initial step, that behavioral change that needs to be done first of all. And then, sticking to it, having the consistency and I guess the accountability. And I think, again, like something like Andy's Man's Club, or for me with my check-ins, it's that weekly accountability of like, you've got to show up. You've got that kind of future-paced or future-based goal ahead of you that you're going to be working towards. So, yeah, I think all those things are very important.
Wow, you couldn't have done that any better. I think it's almost like you were set up perfectly there. So, Luke, as we're coming to the end of the episode, I suppose a key question would be, what does the future of so there's two. First one, what is the future of Andy Man's Club look like, do you think? What's your vision for the future?
Well, I know that we're open at 500 clubs on his 10th birthday, which is obviously 5 clubs, 10 clubs, 5 years, 500 clubs, 10 years. Is quite a knock. So that's where it's at. There's lots happening. We're currently running a campaign this year called Mission Possible, and it started with me and a friend doing the 5 UK Ironman events, but then it turned into what we wanted to inspire people to find their possible. Whether a user at group, with your someone's daughter, someone's son, someone's uncle. Go find your possible. So for me and my friend, we've already done Ironman events. So we got to test ourselves to see what's possible. So within the event, the year we've got 10 other events and marathons and half marathons and all sorts. So we're trying to find out what's possible. And that's what we're encouraging other people to do. That's the question this year is what's your possible? Is it going to an Andy's Man Club? Is it attending a women's wellbeing club? Is it going to see a psychologist? Is it going and doing a 5K run? Is it going for a hike, something you'd never do? Go find your possible. So that's that one.
No, that again, super exciting. And for me and Sean, we're running our first marathon this year.
Yes.
We set it for Lisbon for end of the year. So
love that.
We'll let you know how that goes. Having never run a marathon and not built to run a marathon, that's something that I'm definitely nervous.
You can make yourself built and run a marathon, though.
Yes.
Hang on, I can fucking do it. Is the answer, and I will.
You've just literally You've gone, I'm not built for it. I'm 17 and a half stone. I would technically not be built for a marathon, but I'm going to dominate that marathon. And it's going to hurt, but it's just going to be a get box. So now what happened to you is you had some negative framing.
I did, I did.
And says, bullshit, we're going to get through this together. And now
that's why me and Sean are mates.
That's more powerful than anything. I think, if you're not listening now, text them there. Someone, and even though we're talking about something positive, and I'm not doing this to call out, I just think that's what I love about life. I love when someone's mate goes, bullshit, right? I love you. We're going to get that finish line together, and we're going to train hard. We're going to keep each other accountable, and we'll go that line and get that picture together, be on his wall behind us that we did a marathon together. What a fucking achievement.
Yeah, love it. Very true. And then I suppose the last question would be, what is something, like, what's the biggest lesson been for you since starting Andy Man's Club?
Just the fragility of life and why, it were very ironic that a man who loves life got it bestowed upon him with this thing to start suicide prevention charity. I love life. I love everything about life. I love the fact that one day I'm going to die and I don't know when it is. I love that because it makes it so more beautiful. I could literally close this laptop down now and die, and I'm very aware of that. I talk to my kids about death because I don't want it to be a frightening thing, and that me and your mum are going to die one day. Don't be shocked by it, right? And which means each and every day live your life to the maximum of whatever that day is. And for that one day, it might be the fact that you can only just get out of bed that day. That's it. But at least you give it a go. Some days you're going to be able to go climb Mount Everest, and other days you're not going to be able to climb your stairs at home. But as long as you just know that each and every day life is so beautiful, and look at it as beautiful. I honestly believe that the minute your mum and dad did the dirty, whether it were one night in the back of a taxi or it were a thing, I know you don't want to view that, but they did. They had sex one night or one morning, my mum and dad included, and a little seed from your dad swam a little bit faster at rest, and a fucking miracle was born, which was you, because you could have been flushed down toilet with the rest of them and you want, all right? And as a result of that, what a blessing it was to be put on this earth and now be sat with technology having a conversation about all things manhood and life. What a blessing it is. And I think that's the ultimate lesson for me, and it has been since day one, and it will be to that day that I'm no longer here.
Yeah, I fucking love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, that's good.
Which bit do you love, that saying, or the fact of your dad on top of your mum?
See, I was envisaging
comment.
My mum actually listened to this, so I envisaged him behind, just to be clear, not on top. So
remember, it's just words. It's just words.
Just words. Mum, you can't get offended. There you go.
I got brought up with an older brother where we would abuse our own mum to each other, even though we have the same mum. So I've always realised that when I talk like that, I don't actually think of my mum and dad. I've got a really good skill.
I've learned that skill. Do you feel like
your mum and dad, not my mum and dad?
I thought of your mum and dad. So, like, this is isn't it weird? This is actually a funny point. Like, I've got this filter over me where I feel I can talk about absolutely anything because I just don't think about it. Like, I can say it, I can say the words, I can rip anyone. This is my mum commenting.
Stop it, Kate. Stop it.
Yeah. Sorry, Mum. That's really fucking awkward. But yeah, well, I can say anything and it doesn't actually go in my brain. And I think of that as a bit of a superpower, to be fair. So I'm glad someone else has that too. Lads, anything else before we wrap up?
Nothing from me.
No, just thank you very much. That was really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Cheers, Luke.
Thanks very much, and I'm looking forward to following your journeys this year, the marathon journeys and the running journeys and the mental health journeys. So if you'll drop me a follow and I'll drop you one back, it'd be interesting to see your journeys.
Yeah, legend. If you've got any runs planned, we might try and jump on one of them or something. It'd be fun.
There's lots planned.
Yeah,
great Birmingham run, great North run in your area.
Oh, yeah, I'm doing
that.
Are you
doing that, Andy?
Yeah, great Scotland run, APB marathon in 5 weeks. So there's lots happening. And I tell you, a good one for you boys to come on, York's Free Peaks.
I'd love to do that,
I think there's like 500 people signed up at a minute. So
is this with Andy Mann's club?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll reach out after this and look to get involved. I think that would be class. I'd love to do it. I've always wanted to do it, so that'd be class.
Yeah.
The highlight of my day before I hit this leave button is the conversation we had, and Kate HV said, "Loved this."
Great, right? Yeah.
On that note.
Luke, at this point, do I say dad? Do I say stepdad? How does that work?
Stop it, I'm blushing.
Right, cheers, mate. Right, thanks everyone for listening, and we will catch you on the next one. Thank you, and